Listen, let me tell you something about this Knicks team. They have the identity. They have the physicality.
We could wake up and the Knicks could be in the conference finals. That's a thing that can happen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again. This is Season 2, Episode 8 of Empire State Hoops. I'm Adam Rothschild, and alongside me, that is Matt Vargo. And today's episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, we just got the news that Jalen Brunson was just named Eastern Conference Player of the Month.
That's right, he was.
Averaging 28 points a game, 5 assists, almost 3 rebounds a game. So he's been the star of the show all year long. But to go along with that, we have a lot of questions that need to be answered right now because the New York Knicks right now are playing with 2 major injuries on their roster. They just got Mitchell Robinson back in the game against the Raptors, which we'll get to further on in the episode. But the important thing here is that there's a major question to be asked, despite Mitchell Robinson returning against the Raptors, of course, but OG Anunoby and Julius Randle is concerning when they're out right now because OG's been in and out of the lineup. He played a few games a couple weeks ago, late in March, but went back out with an injury once again, and they're just trying to make sure that he's not in and out of the lineup. But with regards to Julius Randle from Adrian Wojnarowski, there hasn't been really many updates on him since he went out with the injury. Not cleared for contact or anything like that, so it's going to take a lot, and we have less than 10 games to go in the season. The playoffs are right around the corner, so you really got to dig deep, and with the Knicks' schedule to finish the year, how do they do it?
It's going to be difficult because it doesn't really get easier. The only real cupcake thrown in was the Spurs game, but because we got Miami today at the time of recording tonight, the Sacramento on Thursday, and the Bulls for a back-to-back at Chicago, Milwaukee, Bulls again, Celtics, Nets, and the Nets and the Bulls to close it out is pretty favorable, but where seeding desperately matters in the East, especially with Cleveland being a half game behind them and only a half game ahead of Orlando and only 2 games ahead of the Pacers, you can't really afford to go on a decent losing streak because after the Pacers, you got Miami and the Sixers in the play-in spots. So who knows? They could go from 4 to 7 if they're not very careful. They got to finish out the year strong.
Yeah, we've talked about the Eastern Conference and how close it is right now, besides Boston being the clear favorite at number 1.
Yep.
But really looking at this as well, we have to talk about the positives at first. So for the Knicks, they went into Toronto several days ago and going up against their former teammates, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, finding a way to just, get a win when needed, and that was an important one to get. We know the Raptors, of course, aren't really one of the better teams in the league, and, you really just have to win the game, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and with that win, they made it 4 in a row against the Raptors. They swept the series this year 4-0. And the Raptors, look, they're just tanking for a top draft pick at this point. Ever since trading OG and
Siakam.
Yeah, Siakam, they traded him too. Ever since then, they've just been embracing the tank. They've lost 13 in a row now. They're 23-51. They're not too far behind Charlotte for 13th in the East, and yeah, it was to be expected. Obviously, Brunson was awesome as usual. 26 and 7 obviously gets the job done. McBride had another good game, 29 points to go along with 7 assists as well. And how about Josh Hart again? He only had 7 points, but he had 10 assists and 6 rebounds. So again, he'll always be the glue guy. And again, 145 points in total. You did what you have to do, and you got it, and got to be happy about it.
Yeah, give them credit for where credit is due. I mean, just going in there, getting a win, everyone getting involved in the scoring. Achua had a poster, of course, and
Yep, he did.
And that poster is now on a wall somewhere. I don't know where it is, but that's the case. And I know another thing with the Raptors too. I saw this video a couple months ago where their coach had like an agreement with them. He like, hey guys, if you won 3 games in a row, you get a pizza party or something, or like I'll order you dinner or something like that. I don't know. I mean,
the Raptors coach said that.
Yes.
They're that down bad to try to get a win streak. But to be fair, you're not going to win many games with the lineup they trotted out. Grady Dick, Gary Trent Jr., Kelly Olynyk, like these guys, like these are bench guys. You can't be expecting to win many games with that cast. So if anything, and I don't think, like Masai Ujiri, Raptors GM, I don't even think he wants them to go on a 3-game winning streak. I don't even think he wants them to win a single game the rest of the year to try to keep the tank rolling. So yeah, the Raptors are just kind of down bad right now, but it's for a top draft pick. Problem is, in a draft where, in my opinion, there is no superstar available compared to Wemby last year.
Yeah, there was another thing with the Raptors as well, way early on in the season where I think it was a game they were playing the Lakers maybe, and
oh yeah, that game. I remember
it was the game where Barnes didn't get the foul call or something like that, and then the coach went on the rant after and got fined for it, and it's like Scotty Barnes.
I know he was saying like Scotty Barnes is like at least a star level player and he doesn't get that call, and then said like, if you're not going to give us the calls and just heavily favor the Lakers, I'm like paraphrasing obviously, like if you're going to like heavily favor the other team, like why are we even playing the game? And that was kind of like an early season headline. It's been lost in the mix with all of like the Pistons and the Wizards and all that, but yeah, that was a story back from early in the year. I remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Toronto's had their stories, this course, with the rebuild and all that situation. But continuing on to another team in a rebuild that just got the number 1 pick in Victor Wembanyama, of course, this past fall. And Wembanyama in his rookie season, he came out here against the Knicks and dropped 40 points and 20 rebounds. I mean, like we said, this guy's a generational talent. There's nobody else like him, but Jalen Brunson matched him shot for shot in this game with 61 points. And this record was right behind the Knicks' all-time record in scoring, of course, belonging to Carmelo Anthony.
Melo. Doing it in a completely different way. Melo, just a bunch of ISO, silky smooth mid-range J's. But, I mean, Brunson, 47 shots. I mean, nobody else even attempted even half those shots. Second highest was Hart and DiVincenzo at 13. I mean, he did it all on his own, and he just didn't get enough help from the supporting cast. DiVincenzo was really the only other guy who shot well for the Knicks, and again, can't say enough positive things about Wemby. First game at MSG, I believe that was a nationally televised game too. Awful, was flustered. I think he only had maybe like 13 points or something. 40 points, 20 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals and a block. I mean, this guy is going to be arguably, especially when LeBron moves on, he's going to be the LeBron of the next generation of the NBA. He's going to be fighting with Jokic and Luka, Giannis, Embiid for best player in the league status, I think by like year 3 or 4. Like, this guy has got it all. There's nothing this guy can't do offensively or defensively. Just has to fill out his frame, and then it's scary hours in San Antonio once again.
Well, when looking at the game in general, when the Knicks just didn't have enough help, it was really an overtime when it was just miscued plays, a throwaway DiVincenzo couldn't handle, the Spurs getting easy baskets that the Knicks normally wouldn't let them get, especially against an 18-win team. But the thing with this, like you were mentioning about Wemby before, of course, he will be a star in this league, and he's going to get other players around him. That's going to attract more players to want to play in San Antonio because of this guy and because you're playing for a Hall of Fame head coach. But now looking at this with another perspective, the Knicks, you have to win this game. You have to win. You need more help. You can't just have 61 from Brunson. That's not going to do it in this league. You need to win more. But I don't even know what to say at this point. Just, it was really a game they had to win. And now they're bounced back to the 4 spot with Cleveland back in front of them now with the 3-4 being so close. So it was a really important game. They just couldn't pull through.
I could hear like the emotion coming from... I can just imagine like you watching this game just being absolutely crushed that Wemby and the Spurs did this. And yeah, that is the tough loss. I mean, you would assume that's a circle win on the schedule. And throw on the fact that I'm pretty sure the same night Cleveland beat Philadelphia in Donovan Mitchell's return, bump back up to the 3. New York's down at 4. Not over for the 3 seed by any means, but given the tough schedule coming out and because of a certain game that happened just 2 days later, or wasn't it? I think it was 2 days later. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and given that, it's going to be an uphill battle from here on out to try to get the 4, or to get the 3, pardon me, because, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not saying that Orlando would upset the Knicks, but if Orlando gets home court, I mean, especially if Randall's not going to come back and Anunoby's hobbled, I mean, and the Magic would be playing with house money no matter what. I'm just saying it would be a hard series for them against Orlando if they fall to 5.
Oh, yeah, and their fans in Orlando, I mean, they got an amazing fan base. They can get loud at times in that arena. I mean, even seeing Orlando play the Nets, I experienced that a little bit. That crowd got a little wild at some points, when the Nets tried to cut it close. But
small but loyal fan base there in Orlando.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Of course, with all the attractions they have there with Universal and Walt Disney World, of course, and just the players in that roster that they got, they're building something so special there with Jamal Mosley being their head coach and that young roster that they have, and they're going to gain experience with that in the playoffs because they will be in the playoffs this year, and it's going to be exciting for Orlando to be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be the first time they have legitimate expectations in the postseason since Dwight left, which I still can't believe was over a decade ago. But yeah, Orlando, if not for Oklahoma City, this would be the team that everyone's talking about for young up-and-coming team evolving into a contender right before our very eyes. Again, if not for OKC, this would be the team. Banchero would be getting more buzz. Jamal Mosley, as you said, be Coach of the Year candidate. I mean, he already is, but they're probably going to give it to Daigneault. Hopefully I said that right, in OKC. But I don't know, man. This Magic team, they're good. They're scary. And next couple of years, they're going to be at the top of the East.
Well, when we talk about this Thunder team, it's the same situation here, but they have a rising star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have a big guy in Chet Holmgren who can also battle against Wembanyama like we talked about before. But for the Knicks in this game, you had it on your home floor. I believe they beat the Thunder in the previous matchup, or they lost them. I cannot directly remember in the previous matchup when they played Oklahoma City.
129-120. That was 2 days after Christmas. Thunder won that game in OKC.
That was the West Coast trip they had right after Christmas Day against the Bucks. So this game was another important game because you had to find a way back towards the 3 seed, but on your home floor after coming off the road in San Antonio, playing Oklahoma City. This game came down to the final seconds. You had Jalen Brunson driving to the basket, makes the layup. Knicks take the lead up by 1, but there was contact on the play. You see Holmgren around there as well, and there's no foul call. So a lot of Knicks fans, I'm not saying this for myself, but Knicks fans around have been saying that they think that the refs have something against Jalen Brunson. I think it's just something stupid, but the refs should know what they're doing, and I think in that situation they definitely did. So it's really hard to think about it that way, but I mean, you had Gilgeous-Alexander on the very next possession, turnaround shot over McBride, game over.
Yeah, listen, the real reason is that the referees just blew the call. No, it happens. I mean, we saw it last season where Tatum swatted LeBron right on the arm. LeBron literally threw a hissy fit right in the middle of the paint. I mean, it happens. Typically, and we know this in the NBA, when it's crunch time, unless it's totally egregious, referees are typically just going to let it play out. And he was fouled. Not going to deny that. But, I mean, you got to admit, they were still up by 1 regardless, and they forced Shai into a really tough shot, and somehow, spinning, baseline fadeaway, somehow able to rattle it home. And if they can finish ahead of Denver for the number 1 seed, why not Shai for MVP? Just throwing it out.
Watch out for the Thunder. I mean, they're one of the surprising teams in the NBA this year, along with Minnesota, of course, who's also in that race for the Western Conference as well that we talked about. So the Knicks have a tough stretch, and we're going to get to previewing a couple of these games coming up. Of course, the game they have tonight as well, which you'll hear the results about, of course, after as well when they play the Miami Heat. And we'll get to that right after the break here on Season 2, Episode number 8 of Empire State Hoops. We'll be right back.
Hey there, basketball fans. Are you ready to take your love for the game to a whole new level? Well, listen up. We've got something that will make your hoop dreams come true. Introducing Sport Pros USA, the ultimate destination for all your backyard sport court needs. Whether you're a diehard Knicks fan or just looking for some slam dunk fun with your family, Sport Pros USA has got you covered. Picture this. It's a sunny afternoon in New York, and you step out onto your very own custom-built backyard basketball court. The court where legends are born and memories are made. A court where you can unleash your inner baller and shoot hoops like your favorite Knicks players. But it's not just about basketball. It's about family, friends, and fun. Whether you're hosting a game of horse with your buddies or teaching your kids how to dribble and shoot, Sport Pros USA brings the magic of the game right to your doorstep. Our courts are more than just a place to play. They're a place to connect, bond, and create unforgettable moments. And with Sport Pros USA, you can have it all, right in your own backyard. We're not just building courts, we're building dreams. Dreams of buzzer beaters, comebacks, and endless laughter. So why wait? Give us a call at 877-HOOPS-NJ or visit sportprosusa.com today to start designing your very own backyard basketball court. Remember, at Sport Pros USA, we believe that every home deserves a court, and every family deserves the joy of playing together. So don't just watch the game, be a part of it.
And we are back here once again, Season 2, Episode 8 of Empire State Hoops. I'm Adam Rothschild. Alongside me, that is Matt Vargo. And now continuing on here, we talked about a lot of these games the Knicks had this past week. And now continuing on tonight, of course, you'll hear the results after as well when they played the Miami Heat, a team, of course, they played and lost to in the second round of the playoffs last year.
Yep.
But the problem is, the Knicks are not healthy right now.
No.
And going into Miami, I don't even know if they're going to win, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is always a tough place to play. Jimmy Buckets, Bam Adebayo, Jaquez Jr. I don't know if they're dealing with injuries on the Miami side. I feel like I should know this because that's the team the 76ers could very well be playing in the play-in tournament. And Miami, coming off a win over Washington in this game, there was the struggle. They slumped a little bit after the Pelicans game, and I forget what Jimmy said about the Pelicans, but then they went on a decent bit of a slump. Yeah, looks like there's not a whole lot of injuries outside of Tyler Hero. I don't think Tyler Hero's played in a while, but both teams are injured. Obviously, tough place to play, Miami. I think if Brunson is Brunson and can get help from DiVincenzo, McBride, Hart, just anyone else, I think that they've got a good shot to beat Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them a slim chance. I'm not gonna say they're gonna lose the game, but I mean, I'll give them a shot, to try to win because Miami, of course, like we just said, a tough place to play as well. And I really think it's going to be important to go in there and, just try to make a statement. I think that's what it's all about right now. Winning the games down the stretch that are really important, locking up that playoff spot because from a 2 all the way to 6, it's so tight right now with every team that's there because followed by New York at the 4, you got Orlando and Indiana lurking. So both of those teams, like we talked about, are on the rise as well. So that's going to be a really important thing about this game. And the next game they got coming up against Sacramento, we saw the nasty crossover. Brunson got some point guard. I don't even know his name. He got him faked looking, and the Knicks won that game. Brunson had over 40 points in that game. And now, do the Kings change their strategy in this game? Is that the case here, or do the Knicks find a way to win a game on their home floor, which they should?
I feel like that they should win this game, especially because Sacramento's they also are getting some injuries. I know Kevin Huerter's done for the year. He was all kind of having a down year in all honesty, but still valuable shooter for them, and that's why got to have him on the floor. And pretty sure it was against the Mavericks. Don't quote me on it, but pretty sure that they might have just lost Malik Monk for the rest of the regular season and for a good amount of the postseason, which is obviously a big blow to them. He was probably going to win the 6th Man of the Year award. So you got an undermanned Kings team. They don't play any defense at all. Although I'm pretty sure Sabonis has a nice streak of double-doubles that he has going for them. And I think at home, Knicks probably will win this one because Sacramento, just a bad timing for injuries, but injuries happen. Knicks are obviously injured. So I think for the Kings, this is just a bad spot.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's going to be a tough spot for them, of course, like we said about Monk being out with the injury, and they do have some other playoff experience like they got last year, of course, like we mentioned as well in the previous episode about Golden State playing them in the first round of the playoffs last year. But I think now coming into this game, the Knicks are going to have to realize we're back on our home floor. Let's do it. Let's get the job done. Of course, this will be on Thursday at the Garden, and after this coming up, they're going to have a couple more games as well. One of them being against the Chicago Bulls.
A lot against Chicago.
3 games against Chicago in the month of April to finish the season. So with this stretch, it's going to be at Chicago, at Milwaukee, and at Chicago again.
Yeah. Pretty sure there's a back-to-back sprinkled in there. But they've only played the Bulls one time. It was back around New Year's. Blew them out pretty good. I'm pretty sure Zach LaVine actually still might have been healthy for that game. But obviously he's out for the year. This Bulls team, they're just a detonation waiting to happen, in my opinion. Like, this team, pretty sure DeMar DeRozan's a free agent after this season. They're desperately trying to trade Zach LaVine, but his contract is terrible. And, this is just a team that I feel like it's just like a nearly dead horse that's just trying to be put out of its misery. I think this Bulls team doesn't have much left. Maybe they get into the playoffs as the 8th seed, maybe, but I don't know. It's tough. I don't think Chicago wants to make the postseason. I think they want to get a lottery pick, even though it's not a great NBA draft this upcoming year. You got to win this game. You got to sweep these games against the Bulls. I know the Bulls are trying to fight for something in terms of play-in seeding, but this team just doesn't have it. I think they're just a blow-up waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think especially at this point in DeMar DeRozan's career, you talk about what he's done so far with Toronto, of course, not having success there, not being able to beat LeBron James and the Cavaliers.
But who can beat LeBron outside of the KD Warriors? Consistently, who could beat LeBron outside of the KD Warriors? So I'll defend DeMar in that aspect.
Sure, okay, that's fair. But besides that, and then he goes to San Antonio, can't get out of the first round of the playoffs, can't get out of the play-in tournament either. And now he ends up in Chicago, and the original idea, of course, they were supposed to have a phenomenal team, of course, because they got Caruso from the Lakers.
Good.
They got Lonzo Ball from the Pelicans.
Yep.
And they already had Zach LaVine. So you talk about a big three that they could have had. Like, what if all these guys were healthy? And talk about the role players that they had as well at the time, right when this trade happened. This was, of course, the year the Knicks got Kemba Walker, and this was when people thought Chicago was going to be a top 5 team in the East, and in the 2022 season, they were the number 1 seed in the East at one point.
They were. Although I don't think it was going to be sustainable, because if you look at the Bulls' record during that stretch, I think it was against top 4 seeds in the East that year, which I think were Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, and the Miami Heat, if I remember correctly. They had only won like 2 games against those combined teams like the entire season. So it was a bit misleading. I still think the Bulls would be like a solid like mid-tier playoff team, kind of similar to how the Kings are in the West, or maybe even the Pelicans. But I don't know. Lonzo was great for them. It looked like he was the perfect starting point guard they needed, facilitating, tough defense, spreading the ball around to Vucevic and LaVine and DeRozan. Hurt his knee, never came back, and by the looks of it, is he ever going to come back? Because how long has it been? It's been nearly
2 years.
Yeah, it's been nearly. They're trying to wait on Lonzo, but if I remember correctly, last thing we read about Lonzo is that he still hasn't like done like basic sprints yet for the Bulls.
Yeah, and I think it's the story about Lonzo Ball, because I do really want to touch on this for a second, because when he got drafted by the Lakers, he had so much hate. People were hating on him so much.
It's his dad's fault for that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but really, once he got into the league, he was trying to just, make a name for himself, and even though his dad was able to, coach him up a lot, I think it was important when he got into the league, he was able to make a reputation for himself. And when the Lakers got LeBron for that first year, I know the Lakers weren't that good that year, but I think it was important for him to realize around a star player, like, you can make a name for yourself. You just got to go out there and put the work in. And I think when he got to New Orleans after that, he realized, I can lead a team with consistent players around me, and Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. And he was able to do that, even though they weren't able to have much success. And then he goes up to Chicago with great players around him in DeRozan, Caruso, Zach LaVine, Kobe White as well, which is one of their role players. And that was important for him. I think that was his best shot to go on a run and make something happen and make a name for himself. But injuries happen, and it sucks to see this happen.
Yeah, the thing is with Lonzo and the Lakers, when LeBron got there, it was kind of just a bad fit because, I mean, we know LeBron. LeBron at heart is a point guard. I know he's a small forward, but I mean, the man's a point guard. Like, come on. And Lonzo obviously needed the ball in his hands to kind of orchestrate an offense, but LeBron's going to orchestrate an offense when he has the ball. And that year with LeBron was rough. We all know about the LeBron's going to trade you. I mean, I felt bad for all of those young guys because playing with LeBron is tough. We all know this. And Lonzo, after all of the hate and the hype that his dad kind of forced on him, saying that he was magic with a jumper, said he was already better than Steph, and I'm pretty sure LeVar also said that he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he did say that.
Oh my God! And yeah, and Lonzo was doing his job to try to get his reputation back up. We saw with New Orleans the flashes that he had with Zion and BI, as you say. And obviously New Orleans didn't want to match the contract the Bulls gave him, and it looked like he had fully arrived with Chicago, but injuries happen. I mean, it, like you said, sucks that it happened, but I just don't know I don't think Lonzo's coming back, and it's a shame because I remember him at UCLA. He was a baller going up against the likes of De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, Markelle Fultz in that draft class. That was a loaded draft class at the time. Pretty sure Donovan Mitchell was also in that draft class later on, and Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, that was a loaded draft class back then, and it's crazy to think that Lonzo Ball was actually a part of it, and now that he hasn't played in over 2 years, it's a big question about if he's going to come back or not for the Chicago Bulls. But meanwhile, for the New York Knicks, it's going to be a tough stretch to finish the season strong. The NBA playoffs around the corner, and of course, we're going to have a lot of coverage on the NBA playoffs coming around in just a few weeks.
It's going to be
good. It's going to be an exciting time with a lot of basketball to watch and see what happens. And with the Knicks, it's going to be really exciting to see what happens if they get OG Anunoby or Julius Randle back. And this episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, NCAA tournament's coming to a close, I believe, with Final Four we're up to. Iowa beat LSU the other night.
Yep, Caitlin Clark's on a mission.
Caitlin Clark is unbelievable from what we've seen from her in the NCAA this year. And, of course, number one pick in the WNBA draft. Most likely will be her this year. On the men's side, we got NC State is in the Final Four.
Legendary run.
The 11th seed going up against Purdue. Can they win? We'll find out, and we'll see what happens. But from here on Empire State Hoops, I'm Adam Rothschild. That's Matthew Vargo. And we'll see you next week for another episode. Have a good one, everyone.
Peace.